Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking a really fascinating and I think often painful journey back to 1973.
A huge
A
year.
huge year. If you were paying attention to the major headlines, it was just a moment of global instability. You had the OPEC oil embargo throwing gas prices into absolute chaos.
And President Nixon was completely entangled in the Watergate drama.
That's when he famously stated, "I am not a crook."
And we also lost these massive cultural giants like Edward G. Robinson and Noel Coward.
So it was a year of massive external turbulence, absolutely. But for the subject of our deep dive today, Devin Jones, 1973, was marked by a much more concentrated and intensely personal crisis.
He actually looked back on that period and named it his lost year.
And what we have here for you are the documents, the journal entries, and the retrospective notes that really chronicle this period. We're essentially going to spend Devin Jones's summer with him at Joyland.
Which is this beautifully described classic seaside amusement park, sort of tucked away in North Carolina.
And this wasn't supposed to be some grand adventure for him. It was meant to be a simple, heartbroken escape. But the sources we're looking at detail a summer that led to this unexpected personal transformation.
He learns a secret language, and he gets into this terrifying, deep entanglement in a 4-year-old murder mystery.
Centered on the park's funhouse, of all places.
So our deep dive mission today is to extract the absolute key insights from this pivotal period. We aren't just looking at plot points.
Yeah.
We need to analyze the specific hierarchy and the often hypocritical culture of Joyland itself.
And we need to meticulously chart the history and the methodology of this terrifying funhouse killer.
And ultimately, I think we need to understand the true, sometimes grim cost of growing up, of moving past that devastating, defining first love. This is really a story about trading youthful naivete for genuine wisdom.
All set against the backdrop of spinning rides and cotton candy.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the protagonist, with Devin and his emotional state. He's 21, a student at UNH with literary aspirations.
Right, so he's introspective.
Very, but his emotional baseline is deeply unstable. The sources note he possesses occasional suicidal ideations.
That's a heavy place to start from.
It is. And he's driving down south in this clunker Ford, traveling so light, 3 pairs of blue jeans, 4 pairs of jockey shorts. But his emotional baggage is just, it's clearly overflowing.
And that baggage, that profound sense of loss, is really the engine that drives him directly into Joyland's orbit.
The source of his misery is Wendy Keegan.
Of course.
They had been inseparable for 2 years. They met at the freshman mixer, a classic foundational college romance.
But that relationship just completely dissolved when Wendy took a summer job in Boston with her friend Renee.
And the narrative, it dedicates so much emotional weight to how this happened. It wasn't a big fight.
No.
It was more like an amputation by distance. When Devin presses her about what the separation actually means, the death knell line is delivered.
We could probably use some time apart.
Ugh. And she added that classic, infuriatingly flimsy consolation. Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
But Devin notes that she didn't quite look at me when she said that.
Yeah, that's the tell. The pain is just compounded by the fact that he felt he had been so honorable, almost too honorable, throughout their whole relationship.
And that's really the core of his self-doubt. He spent 2 years trying to be the gallant young man, respecting boundaries, waiting for the right moment.
And then what happens?
Well, as he discovers later, she immediately tumbled into bed with the new guy from her advanced sociology course.
Of course.
The sources emphasize that Devin, even decades later as a prostate cancer survivor, is still obsessed with this one question.
What was he lacking?
Exactly. Why did her virtue just disappear the second she was out of his sight? And what did that say about his own value? This internal anguish is what sends him on this desperate need for escape.
He needed a place that was physically and emotionally as far away as possible. He had to prove, at least to himself, that he was capable of an adventure, even if it felt completely hollow at the time.
So how does he end up finding a park near a place called Heavens Bay, North Carolina?
It's a moment of pure serendipity, really.
Yeah.
He's working this mind-numbing job on a conveyor belt, just staring at a copy of Carolina Living magazine.
Okay.
Someone else had already circled all the practical jobs, the sensible ones, but the ad that arrests his attention is untouched, and it just jumps out at him.
Work close to heaven.
That's the one. It was the name, Joyland, combined with that phrase, that just promised something transcendent.
Or at least something completely different from the grim reality of his broken heart.
And he secures the job during spring break, which is the time he had actually planned to use trying to fix things with Wendy.
Oh, wow.
And she encourages him to go. She tells him it would be an adventure, which Devin, correctly interprets as a veiled relief that he would be out of her hair for the summer.
He's hired as a happy helper by Freddie Dean, who seems mostly impressed by the fact that Devin has a Red Cross life-saving certificate.
But the reality of Joyland is a necessary shock to his system. It's not a major theme park.
No, it's not Disney.
Not at all. Dean describes it accurately as a little old and a little rickety, but it possesses this undeniable old-school charm.
And it's precisely this third-peer status that allows for its unique, tight-knit culture to flourish.
And the setting immediately gives him the perspective he needs. I mean, literally. On his first day, Lane Hardy, the ride jock, sends Devin up on the Carolina Spin.
Hardy calls it a grandma ride. Not much of a thrill.
Right. But the view is everything.
It's the call to adventure, geographically realized. From the peak, he looks out over this vast North Carolina flatland, described as incredibly green, meeting the deep metallic blue of the ocean near Heaven's Bay.
And that altitude, that distance, it allows him to experience a moment of emotional clarity.
He reflects on it, feeling, and he says it's stupid but true, that I was leaving all my cares and worries down below.
He's physically and symbolically separating himself from Wendy, from UNH, from that whole life.
He secures his temporary home in Mrs. Shoplaw's rooming house. He gets a room on the second floor with an ocean view.
And that view, again, is an immediate contrast to his former life. It's the view Wendy Keegan never got a chance to sample.
The house itself reveals a layer of local history. Mrs. Shoplaw is friendly. She allows him to have lady friends, but she's renting the rooms for a reason.
Her husband, the former chief of engineering at Joyland, died of a sudden heart attack.
And his life insurance was lousy and borrowed against to the hilt in the bargain.
So even in this small corner of heaven, mortality and financial strain are just looming large.
Once Devin is settled, the next immediate challenge is cultural immersion. Joyland operates by its own set of rules, its own hierarchy, and most importantly, its own specific language.
They call it the talk.
And this is the first step in him forging a new identity, moving away from college boy to Carny.
And the whole culture is dictated from the top down by the boss, Bradley Easterbrook.
He is a stunning contrast. Tall, thin, always dressed in a black suit like an undertaker.
But when he smiles...
The light and energy are just immense. It lit him up like a jukebox. This man, who turns 93 that summer, is the source of the park's entire spiritual philosophy.
He provides the rough poetry of the job, as the source calls it. And this speech he gives is absolutely critical for understanding the rest of the summer.
He tells the greenies, the new hires, that they have a responsibility because the world is badly broken, full of wars and cruelty.
Their job is a priceless gift. They are there to sell fun and parcel out happiness.
And he says they have to remember this when the work is tedious or the people are difficult. This is the official mythology of Joyland.
But immediately, right away, there is this tension and contradiction, which is where the talk really comes in.
Exactly. Easterbrook stresses that the job is about spreading happiness, but then he immediately introduces a derogatory term for the very people they are supposed to be serving.
The official internal term for customers is rubes.
And Easterbrook uses it constantly. He defines them as no different from the redneck Okies and Arkies that rubbernecked their way through every Carny I worked for after World War II.
But the happy helpers, the public-facing employees, they must refer to them as conies.
Referencing Coney Island, but with the implied connotation that they are rabbits. Nice, plump, fun-loving rabbits hopping from ride to ride and shy to shy.
So this linguistic division, the private cynicism versus the public forced cheer, it's the first real sign of the park's deeper hypocrisy.
And mastering the jargon is absolutely essential to belonging. Game booths aren't booths, they're shies.
Concessions are joints.
And the Appy Hound cap they're required to wear is a dog top.
And the biggest social divide is immediately established between the greenies, the summer hires like Devin, and the Carny from Carny, the people who have grown up in the industry.
The way the veterans treat the newcomers is this deliberate, grueling rite of passage. It's intended to establish a hierarchy.
We see this so vividly with Pop Allen, the team leader. When Ronnie Houston, a greenie from FSU, shows up wearing his pristine college hat.
Pop immediately demands he whip off that turdish-looking schoolboy hat and replace it with the required dog top.
And the dog top can't just be new, it has to look like it belongs.
So Ronnie, desperate to shed his greenie status, takes his new cap out to the parking lot and purposefully stomps it in grease to achieve the right look.
Tom Kennedy later jokes that he needs to piss on it a little for the final touch.
It's all about humiliation and absolute immersion. They are forcing Devin and the others to shed their college identities and adopt the transient, rugged persona of the Carny.
And this is where we need to spend some time on the social and economic structure, which Tom Kennedy highlights really insightfully.
So Devin, Tom, and Aaron are happy helpers. They're part of Team Beagle, which just means general employment.
They make $4 an hour, which is pretty decent for the time, and they certainly do custodial work.
But the source material points out a much starker reality regarding labor exploitation in the early 70s South.
Tom observes that despite their chores, the primary custodial crew, 20 men and over 30 women, all wearing these Howie patches, were undocumented Haitians and Dominicans.
They're the unseen backbone of the park's entire operation. They're housed in a village 10 miles inland and transported by retired school buses.
And the sources are very clear. They were paid far less than the happy helpers and were, fundamentally exploited labor.
And the discussion of this, it contrasts so brutally with Easterbrook's rough poetry about parceling out happiness.
Joyland is an island of fun that's built on a foundation of precarious, underpaid labor. And Devin's awareness of this, thanks to Tom's observation, it adds this layer of complexity and moral awareness to his personal journey.
And speaking of the team, Erin Cook provides another fascinating layer to the park's operation.
She's the redheaded art major from Bard, a photography enthusiast, and she's designated a Hollywood girl.
The Hollywood girls are there for optics and for profit. They wear the short green dresses, high heels, and little green hats. The merry chicks.
Mrs. Shoplaw notes that this was purely Easterbrook's old-time showbiz instinct for adding a dash of sex appeal.
Their tool is the old-fashioned speed graphic camera, and their instruction is rigid. Snap first, then approach.
And they focus on family groups and dating couples who look over 21.
They're essentially looking for targets who have money and a reason to capture a moment of engineered happiness.
And Erin, being bright and analytical, is perfectly positioned to later turn her photographic eye toward the park's biggest, darkest secret.
So once Devin has his room, his uniform, and his introduction to the talk, he gets the one story that really defines the park's local legend.
The shadow hanging over Joyland, the murder of Linda Gray.
And Mrs. Shoplaw, who is friendly but also morbidly informative, she gives him the whole scoop right away.
This happened 4 years prior. Linda Gray from Florence, South Carolina, and her date spent their last night at the Luna Inn.
They bought day passes with cash, they rode rides, and had a late lunch at Rock Lobster around 1 p.m. The sources detail this timeline so meticulously because it was crucial to the police investigation.
And the location of the crime is just chilling. The horror house, the park's fun house, a dark ride.
The cause of death was a cutthroat, likely inflicted with a straight razor.
And the killer chose the completely dark part of the ride.
Right, the double S curve that's situated between the dungeon and the torture chamber exhibits.
The premeditation is what truly horrifies everyone, and the narrative itself.
The killer wore gloves and, Mrs. Shoplaw explains, an extra shirt just to catch the blood.
This detail means the killer didn't just snap. He planned this with a kind of clinical precision.
He rode out the rest of the dark ride before carefully disposing of the body in that dark section. A happy helper cleaning up later assumed a small trail of blood was just a nosebleed.
Never suspecting the truth until the body was finally discovered.
And the police had one critical piece of evidence that ran in the papers for a solid week.
The Hollywood girl photo, taken at the shooting gallery.
It shows Linda Gray smiling, and the man snuggled up next to her, showing her how to hold the rifle. Linda is happy, but the man looks
dead serious. This photo becomes the face of the unknown killer.
And this atmosphere of dread leads us directly to the psychic element that Devin encounters during his interview.
Madame Fortuna, a.k.a. Rosalind Gold.
She uses this theatrical Bela Lugosi with breasts accent for her character, and Devin, being the cynical English major he is, assumes she's a total charlatan.
But when he asks about Wendy, she just stops the act completely.
She tells him simply, directly, she is in your past.
That immediate, cold confirmation of his reality is stunning enough. Yeah. But then she delivers the prophecy that structures the entire rest of his summer.
She predicts his future involvement with two specific people. In your future is a little girl and a little boy. The boy has a dog.
The girl wears a red hat and carries a doll. Then she turns serious, warning Devin of a shadow over you and specifically points toward the horror house, seeing danger.
And even if he initially dismisses her, the narrative confirms that Rosie Gold possesses a genuine psychic touch, even if 90% of everything she says really is horseshit.
So Devin leaves with this kind of existential checklist, which provides a deeper purpose than just escaping his heartbreak.
Now, this is where the investigation moves beyond folklore and into the realm of real detective work, thanks to Aaron Cook.
She hears Devin's vague details about the funhouse killer, and seeing it as a research project, she uses her art major connections to start a serious investigation, racking up those interlibrary loan fees.
And Aaron's dive into the archives confirms that the Linda Gray murder wasn't isolated.
No.
Since 1961, there had been 4 similar unsolved murders across Georgia and the Carolinas: Dee Dee Mowbray, Claudine Sharp, Eva Longbottom, and Darlene Stamnature.
All of them linked by the killer leaving behind a bloody shirt and gloves, and a method that required these controlled, confined environments.
A stabbing, a cutthroat in a dark theater, and another murder near a county fair.
And she uncovers the connection the police seem to miss, or at least fail to publicize broadly.
The murder timelines consistently coincided with specific traveling carnivals. Manly Wellman Show was connected to 2 of the victims, and Southern Star Amusements was near the Darlene Stamnature murder.
This strongly suggested the funhouse killer was itinerant, traveling the Carny circuit and striking when the show came to town.
But Aaron's most crucial analytical breakthrough concerns the killer's appearance. Witnesses to earlier crimes described the killer as having these specific noticeable tattoos: a bird or a Coptic cross.
Right. But Erin compared a high-quality photo from her mentor, Brenda Rafferty, showing the man with Linda Gray at the Worley Cups.
And the man's left hand, resting on Linda's hip, clearly had no tattoo.
This realization is brilliant. The tattoos were temporary.
Aaron immediately understands the psychological misdirection. The temporary tattoo is designed to be highly visible and attention-grabbing.
As she theorizes, people notice the tattoo and everything else about him just fades into the background.
It was a deliberate ploy to draw witnesses' eyes away from his actual face or unique features, a calculated act of camouflage by the killer.
This confirms he is meticulous, highly intelligent, and an insider to the Carny world where temporary markings are common.
And Devin's personal arc, it pivots so dramatically when he accepts the necessity of wearing the fur.
His heartbreak is still present, yes, but donning the Howie the Happy Hound costume gives him a completely new performing identity. It forces him to look outward.
He describes the oppressive nature of the costume, the brutal heat, the exhaustion, but immediately realizes he's a natural.
He excels at the Wiggle Waggle Village, dancing the hokey pokey, and dealing with the inevitable crying children at the Howdy House daycare.
His approved rallying cry. Let's turn that frown upside down.
And that rallying cry isn't just a marketing slogan for Devin, it becomes a personal philosophy.
Bradley Easterbrook, ever the showman and observer, sees it. He tells Devin, "I think you'll wear the fur a lot this summer."
And Devin later looks back on this time, noting that despite having these big editorial jobs in his 60s, he never felt so weirdly happy, so absolutely in the right place as he did then.
Entertaining children as a dog. It's an immersion that shifts his entire internal priority structure. He moves from self-pity to external purpose.
And this shift is validated, and his future is confirmed on the 4th of July with the first rescue, which fulfills part of Fortuna's prophecy.
While dancing down Joyland Avenue, he sees the little girl in the red hat with the doll, Hallie Stansfield, choking on a Pupalicious hot dog.
The historical context here is so crucial. This is 1973. The Heimlich maneuver wouldn't be published in the medical journals until 1974.
But Devin had taken a common-sense life-saving course at UNH.
So he performs an abdominal thrust, described in the sources as grabbing Hallie in a vast, furry embrace, jamming his paw against her midsection, and giving a single hard squeeze.
And the mustard-smeared hot dog chunk pops out immediately.
The scene's sheer absurdity is captured perfectly by Aaron Cook's photograph. The massive, slightly terrifying dog suit, the head lolling off its shoulder, saving the girl.
And Hallie's first words, focused entirely on the costume, are, "Oh, poor Howie, your head fell off."
Which results in that famous local headline, "Dog saves girl at amusement park."
And this moment cements Devin's new identity. The heartbreak is now secondary to this purpose.
When Wendy sends her final, highly dismissive letter detailing her new boyfriend, Dartmouth Lacrosse, a Mustang, Devin admits he feels jealousy, but his response is different now. He uses the fur as a bitter sort of amusement value.
He reflects that Wendy's old boyfriend was spending the summer in a third-tier amusement park, where he played a dog.
The pain hasn't vanished, but the shame has been diluted by genuine heroism.
And that heroism is immediately tested against mortality later that fall with the second rescue.
He saves Eddie Parks, the ill-tempered vet who ran the horror house, from his first heart attack.
Devin's quick response, his chest compressions, they likely saved his life. And Lane Hardy, ironically, is the one who reports the heroism to the papers, thinking of the good publicity.
But this rescue is crucial because it reminds Devin that the bubble of Joyland is fragile. Eddie Parks, despite being saved, was still a heavy smoker with terrible habits.
Devin learns later that Eddie dies shortly afterward from a second fatal heart attack in an elevator.
Heroism, Devin realizes, is often fleeting. You can save someone once, but you can't save them from the reality of life and death.
And this reinforces the grim truth that exists just outside the park's enforced joy.
So the stage is set for the final element of Fortuna's prophecy and the deepest connection Devin makes that summer. Mike Ross.
The boy with the dog, Milo.
Devin first encounters them walking along the beach, and Mike is instantly memorable. He's in a wheelchair, wearing a White Sox cap, looking ill, but he has this great grin.
And his mother, Annie, is beautiful, but fiercely protective and standoffish.
Mike delivers the profound reality check that Devin desperately needs.
He has Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, a particularly brutal form of MD where most children croak in their teens or early 20s.
After a recent bout of pneumonia, Mike possesses this urgency and defiance that makes him wise beyond his years. He is facing an inevitable near-term death, and this reality forces Devin to stop navel-gazing over Wendy.
Mike seems to possess the sight that Fortuna had predicted.
When Devin asks him about his illness, Mike doesn't deflect. He looks at Devin with this clear intensity and says, "Because you want to know. Maybe you even need to know."
And Devin immediately recognizes that Mike's knowledge is clearer, simpler, purer than his own self-pity.
Mike somehow knows Devin was sad, but that he is better now, even though Devin hadn't confided in him.
And Mike's immediate pressing wish, because he is running out of time, is to fly a kite.
Specifically, the large homemade Jesus kite that Annie uses.
So as the summer ends, Devin finds himself fundamentally changed. He's sad about leaving Joyland, not about leaving Wendy.
The sound of the ocean, the familiarity of the talk, the sense of community. He feels Joyland still has some more to give him.
He's finally progressing from denial to acceptance regarding his old life.
His decision to stay is complicated, but the driving force is supernatural curiosity. Or rather, the desire to experience what his friend Tom Kennedy experienced.
Tom, his cheerful, skeptical friend, is the only one who sees the ghosts of Linda Gray in the horror house during their off-day ride.
And Tom's account is terrifyingly specific. Linda Gray in a sleeveless blouse and long skirt, holding out her hands in a silent plea.
He's so profoundly disturbed by this undeniable supernatural encounter that he packs up and leaves Joyland completely. His life is instantly transformed by fear.
Devin, who began the summer running from heartbreak, is now chasing transcendence. He wants the same proof Tom found. He tells himself, "I wanted to see her too."
So he actively delays college, risking his UNH scholarship despite his father's furious disapproval.
And he secures the off-season job by leveraging the good publicity he brought to Easterbrook.
Easterbrook grants him the job until the park closes for good in November, showing his inherent charm and recognizing the carnival in his soul.
This is a profound stamp of approval, the acceptance Devin truly craved. And it's noted that Easterbrook, the institution of Joyland, he dies that coming New Year's Day.
Meanwhile, Devin's bond with Mike and Annie deepens. Annie, fiercely dedicated to Mike, is initially reluctant to take him to the park.
She's afraid that enjoying certain last things would validate that his life was ending. But Mike's defiance wins out.
So Devin organizes this magnificent special off-season tour for Mike, Annie, and Milo.
He, Fred Dean, and Lane Hardy pull out all the stops.
Fred Dean, having recovered from his heart attack scare, is so courtly. He even presents Annie with roses, a sharp contrast to his usual demeanor.
They enjoy the train ride, the gondola glide, and the Carolina spinner, or hoister, as Devin calls it, fluidly using the talk.
This tour is just a beautiful moment of pure, manufactured Joyland happiness, ironically orchestrated by the very man who will try to kill Devin.
So the moment of revelation, the intellectual climax of the investigation, happens as Devin mentally overlays Aaron's research with his daily observations of the Joyland staff. What detail from the photograph finally clicks?
The detail was staring him in the face every single day. He realizes that the cap the killer wore in the shooting gallery photo was tilted at the exact same angle. Lane Hardy, the ride jock, always wore his own derby.
That physical habit.
That habit, combined with Aaron's discovery that the killer used fake tattoos and hair dye to conceal his identity, was the final piece.
And the confirmation arrives violently during a sudden, massive storm.
Lane Hardy is caught in the torrential rain on the Carolina Spin. Devin sees these dark streaks running down Lane's cheeks and realizes immediately it's hair dye washing away.
Confirming he was actively concealing his natural color, the tilted cat belonged to Lane, whose real name, the sources reveal, was Leonard Hopgood.
The funhouse killer was the man who had been giving Devin rides all summer.
And the danger is immediate and terrifying. Lane Hardy traps Devin on the Carolina Spin, using a modified genie garage door opener to control the ride remotely, ensuring Devin can't get off.
And Lane, holding a pistol, confesses his motive. It's not lust or rage, it's control and risk.
He admits he was cured for a time, but Devin's investigation, the tilted cap, the hair diet, forced his hand.
And he refers to Mike as a crippled-up brat in his confession, revealing his true, vicious nature hidden beneath that affable, carny exterior.
And at the same time, the supernatural elements are culminating in Mike's crucial intercession.
Mike Ross wakes up to a vision, but it's not the ghost of Linda Gray.
No.
Mike says that Linda Gray is gone and wants to leave. Her story is secondary to the immediate danger. Instead, the ghost of Eddie Parks,
The cranky man Devin had saved.
who Mike refers to as the kiddo, tells Mike that Devin is in danger. And crucially, Eddie's ghost warns him that the killer is not white.
That phrase, not white, refers to Lane's concealed natural gray hair color, confirming Mike's sight is accurate.
Mike immediately starts screaming for his mother, Annie, providing her with the critical moment of alarm that sends her racing back to Joyland, armed.
Annie Ross, who is revealed to be a Camp Perry shooting champion, arrives with her rifle. The massive storm and high winds are just buffeting the Carolina Spin car.
And Lane, caught off guard by the elements, is forced to rise into a crouch to maintain his balance.
Providing Annie with a clear target, she takes the shot, saving Devin's life and ending the reign of the funhouse killer.
The final scene is Mike's legacy and the resolution of the entire summer's journey. Mike dies soon after the ordeal from Duchenne's MD.
And his final wish is so profound, cremation, and for his ashes to be spread using the Jesus kite on the Joyland beach.
This request is an act of ultimate defiance against his confined body.
Devin and Annie fulfill this final wish. Devin releases the kite, feeling the pull the way a fishing line does when a fair-sized trout has taken the hook.
He watches the thin gray streamer of ash carried higher and higher. It symbolizes Mike's ability to finally fly without his wasted legs or cruel braces.
It fulfills the final, most symbolic part of Fortuna's prophecy. It is the true, poignant end of Devin's lost year. He helped a child achieve transcendence just as he was achieving his own.
So Devin Jones started his summer heartbroken over Wendy Keegan, convinced he had a serious heart condition rooted in this emotional failure.
Right, he was chasing the ghost of a relationship that was already over, defining himself entirely by what he lacked.
But the irony is that this so-called lost year was the year he found everything.
He found a genuine working-class independence, a sense of purpose while wearing the fur, the knowledge of mortality brought by Mike Ross,
and the courage to confront a psychological monster that was hidden in plain sight.
He arrived seeking either a supernatural ghost in Linda Gray or the ghost of his past life in Wendy, but he left transformed by the very real people he encountered and the real dangers he survived.
The Joyland Amusement Park. This island, dedicated to artificial happiness built upon exploitation and hidden trauma, ultimately became the stage for these profound defining lessons in grief and genuine heroism.
The mystery of the actual ghost of Linda Gray, it was a distraction. It was less important than the psychological monster who was an insider, Lane Hardy.
Devin had to solve the puzzle, but he also had to integrate into the culture enough to identify that contradiction.
Ultimately, the source material offers a crucial observation that summarizes Devin's transformation, and it relates directly back to his original heartbreak.
When it comes to the past, everyone writes fiction.
And that raises the final provocative thought for you. Devin arrived writing a fiction where he was the victim of a beautiful girl.
He left because he rewrote that fiction, replacing it with the truth of real-life horror and embracing the profound, urgent wisdom delivered by a dying boy with the sight.
So how much of the truth we tell ourselves about our own lost years, those periods we label as failures or wastes of time, is simply the convenient story we choose to write?
And how much of it is the truth that requires an unexpected, final, and urgent warning, whether it's delivered by a scream or a ghost, to finally reveal the necessary path forward?